By the end of this video, you will learn about the fseek function in C programming language. So in this file handling video series, we are talking about the files in C language. And in the previous tutorial, we have talked about the ftell function, by using which we can come to know where exactly we are in the file. The ftell function says from the beginning of the file, how many bytes away the file position indicator is. But here, by using this fseek function, we can change the value of the file position indicator and we can move around the files. And if we talk about the syntax of this function, the name is fseek, and the first argument here is the pointer to the file stream, and the second argument is the offset in bytes. By using this, we will say how many bytes we want to move forward or backwards. Here we can have the positive and negative values. And then the third argument is from which location we want to move forward or backwards. So for this third argument, we have three possible values. One is called as seek set, which means from the beginning of the file. Second one is called as seek end, which means from the end of the file. And the third one is seek cur, which means from the current position of the file position indicator. And this function returns a value of 0 if it successfully updates the file position indicator with the value that we have specified. Otherwise, it will return a non-zero value. So by using this function, we can move around the files by updating the value of the file position indicator. So let us see how we can use this in our program. Now, in order to explain this, I have defined a macro called as size, which expands to a value of 6. And then I have this numbers array of this size. And then I have these values in this array. And after that, I'm opening up the data.bin file and I have used the W+ mode and I'm opening it in binary mode. If the file is not opened, then we are terminating the program. If the file is opened successfully, then we are writing the data to the file by using the fwrite function. So what we are doing here is we are writing the contents of this array to the file. Now about all these things we have seen in the previous tutorial. So if I use the printf function in here, and if I try to fetch the file position indicator's current position by using the ftell function, it will be at the end of the file. For example, in this example right now we have written around 24 bytes because here 6 elements are there. All of them are integers. So for integers, 4 bytes of memory is used. So we have written 24 bytes in here. And when this ftell function is used, it will say how many bytes away from the beginning the file position indicator is present. It will say 24 bytes. So now here, I used %lf. It should be %ld because it returns a value of type long. If I save this program and if I run this, we're going to get 24 in here. So now let us see how we can use the fseek function. So in the previous tutorial, we have seen that if I wanted to reset the file position indicator, then I have used the rewind function. What rewind function does is it resets the file position indicator to the beginning, which means 0, and then it resets some other flags. But here, what I want to do is I want to reset the file position indicator to 0, but by using the fseek function. So how we can do that? So it will be fseek in here, and first we have to provide the pointer to the file stream that we are working, which is fp in this case. And then how many bytes we want to move, I'm going to say 0. And then from which location we want to move 0 bytes, I'm going to say seek set. So what I'm saying here is from the beginning of the file, move 0 bytes forward. So which basically means go to the beginning of the file. So now if I copy this printf statement, which gets the value of the file position indicator and displays that. So now it will say it will be at 0. So here I'm going to say position before, and here I'm going to say position after. Now after that, let's insert the new lines and make it pretty. And then we will run this and we're going to get 24 and 0. Okay, before 24 and after 0. So now here from the beginning of the file, I'm setting the file position indicator's value. What if I want to do it from the end of the file? For that, I'm going to use seek end. And here I have to say how many bytes I want to move. So here we know that we have written 24 bytes to the file. So since we are in the end, I want to move back 24 bytes. So it will be 24, but it will be minus 24 because we are moving backwards. So now if I do this and if I save the program and if I run this, we will get the same result. So by using this fseek function, we can change the values of the file position indicator. So when the next read or write operation that we perform after that, it will happen from that particular position. So here, the next thing that we do is we will see how we can read some data from the file. Now here I have reset that one to the beginning. Now the next thing that we do is we will read the values from the file. So for that, I will use the fread function, and in order to store the value, we need a variable. I will create a variable and I will call it as value, and I will store a value of 0 in this. Now I'm going to use the fread function. And here the first parameter that we have to say is where we want to save the read value. I want to do that in this value variable. And the next thing is how many bytes I want to read. I'm going to say I want to read 4 bytes or size of the integer, because the data that we have written here are of type integers. What we have done is we have written this entire array to the file, and I want to read only one element of this array, which is of type integer. So here I'm going to say 4 bytes or size of integer, and then how many elements? Only one element. So now what it does is it will read the value and it will store that in this value variable. And then we have to specify the file from which we want to read the value. So now after that, what I want to do is I want to display the value that we read for this value. So it will be printf, and I will display the value. So now if I save this program and if I run this, we will get value 65. The reason for that is after writing this data, we have reset the file position indicator to the beginning, and then when we perform the read operation, it will start reading from the file position indicator's value. So which means from the beginning of the file, and it will read the first element. Now what if I change the value of the file position indicator by using this fseek? Now here, instead of saying from the beginning move 0 bytes forward, what if I say set the file position indicator to 4 bytes away from the beginning, or 4 bytes forward from the beginning. So now if I do this and if I save this program and if I run this, what will happen? We will get 66, because from the beginning 4 bytes away, which means this value. Now similarly, what if I want to read the value of this 69? So we know that it is the 5th element. So it means there are 4 integer values before this value that we want to read. So what we have to do is we have to move the file position indicator in such a way that the next read operation that we will perform, it will read 69. So in order to do that, I will use seek set, and then I have to specify how many bytes from the beginning of the file. So here, since we are working with the integer types, so I'm going to use the size of integer. So I will get the size of the integer in here. So here what I'm doing is I'm getting the size of one single element, and then I have to specify how many elements. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I say 4 here, now what it does is it will perform 4 multiplied by size of integer, which is 4, which means from the beginning move the file position indicator to 16 bytes. So now when the next read operation that we will perform, it will read this value. And here, we are getting the value of this size of as unsigned long, but the argument it takes is of type long. So I'm going to do the explicit casting in here. And after that, if I save the program and if I run this, we're going to get the value of 69. What if I want to move the file position indicator in such a way that the next read operation here will read the value of, let us say 67, but I want to move it from the end. So for that, we will set this one to seek end. Now how many values we have to move so that we read 67? It is right now we are after this 70, so in the end, so we will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have to move 4 elements of type integers, which means 4 multiplied by size of integers, but we have to move backwards. So I will use minus in here. So now if I save this program and if I run this, we should get 67. Okay. So now the next thing that we see here is about the return value of this fseek. This fseek function returns 0 if it successfully updates the file position indicator's value to the value that we specify. Otherwise, it returns a non-zero value. So what we can do is we can use the if conditional statement and we can check the return value. So here I'm going to say whether it is equal to 0. It means that we have successfully moved the file position indicator to whatever the location that we intended. So what we can do is, we can perform the read operation and expect the proper result. And if we get a value which is other than 0, then it means the fseek function failed to move the file position indicator to the specific location that we mentioned. So in that case, we will display a error message, and I will use the perror in here, and I will say fseek error. Okay. So now if I save this program and if I run this, the value of 67. Now let us see, what are the operations that we can perform in here. For example, can I say from the end of this file, move 5 bytes forward? Can we do that? So let us try that. So what I'm saying here is from the end of the file, move the file position indicator 5 bytes forward, or update its value so that it can point to 5 bytes forward from the end of the file. Here in this if block, we will have a message just to make sure that this operation works, something like this. And now let us save and run this program. So now it says works, but the value is 0. Why it is so? This function allowed this operation, but when we try to read the value from that particular position pointed by the file position indicator, there is nothing. So this fread function fails. So the value variable still has the original value which we have initialized, and we get that. So this is one thing that you have to be aware of. The second one is, what if I try to move, let us say 100 bytes backwards from the end of the file? Remember, we have written only 24 bytes. So in this case, if I save this program and if I run this, we will get the error. The fseek function returns a non-zero value, and that's why this perror is executed. So we will get something like invalid argument. So this is one thing, that we can't do. So we can't set a value which is negative, but we can increase it to any number in positive direction. So the next thing is, what if I change this one to seek set? That means from the beginning of the file, let us say move 10 bytes before. Again, this is also not possible. We will get the same error. But if I say from the beginning of the file, move, let us say 100 bytes forward, or update the file position indicator's value to point to 100 bytes forward from the beginning of the file. If I save this program and if I run this, now it works, but there is nothing in the file to read, and that's why the fread operation here, it will fail, and we will display the default value of this value variable. So I want you guys to try this function, try this code, and experiment on this. Try to do different things and try to see how it works. So this is it, guys, for this particular video. If you like it, hit the like button. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button. If you have anything to say, write that in the comment box. For more tutorials, subscribe to the channel.